They were both botanists. My father was a plant ecologist whose major area of interest was native plants to southeastern Ohio. And my mother was also a botanist, and she was a plant taxonomist, which means that she would identify, classify, and preserve at the herbarium at the botany department. I had opened a bakery, which is still open and operating, back in 2014, and was approached by a woman, Connie Davidson, who came in as a customer, but also was familiar to me because her grandson and my sons played soccer together. And I thought it was just sort of a friendly social visit, but then she announced to me that there was an opening for nominations to name a native plant garden in Athens here at the Visitor Center. And would I mind if my parents were nominated? I said, of course not. I'd be honored, and so would they. I'm sure at the time my mother was still living. At some point, Connie came back into the bakery and said, your parents' nomination has been accepted, and it'll be called the Wistendahl Garden. I think my father and mother was with the university from the early mid-50s through the 80s, 90s, I guess. And my father passed away 10 years ago. Well, now it's 12 years ago. My mother passed away 2 years ago. My father was very, very active in preserving natural areas. There's a small prairie nearby here called Buffalo Beat, which is the last prairie land undisturbed in this region, maybe in all of Ohio, of which he was actively involved in preserving and studying and taking students to. Another area that he was very involved with was Dysart's Woods, which is the last old-growth forest in this region. He was actively involved in limiting the ability of coal companies to strip mine around it, which might damage the ecosystem, and was successful. But then they came back and they applied for whatever they call it, the mining actually under Dysart's Woods. That was about 15 years ago, and he'd retired then and didn't participate in that battle. But he basically was the one who preserved the last forest land and old growth forest land and prairie land here in all of Ohio, actually. So that's one of the things that outstanding in his legacy. Also the many awards that he received as a faculty member. I was introduced to Frank Porter, who is the expert in native plants. He's I don't know whether amateur is a fair word, but he's a self-taught, I believe, botanist specializing in native plants. He has a nursery that sells, I believe, native plants, and he kind of curated and landscaped and pulled together and worked with the team that actually did all of this and made it a reality. My parents would be, and my mother was, very, very honored and pleased and ecstatic that this garden exists, even if it weren't named in their honor. But I think they would be thrilled to be able to walk through this space and see so many of the plants that they've worked with, throughout their career here.